The Genius Club with Prairie Pine. Chapter 71. The Butterfly. So handsome, even better looking than in the photos. Mr. Lin, can you sign an autograph for us? Congratulations, Mr. Lin. I love Broken Bridge so much. Can we take a photo with you, please? As soon as Lin stepped out of the car, the group of young fans swarmed around him. Their voices were filled with excitement and adoration, their phones held high to capture every moment of the reclusive genius. The air was filled with the rustle of book pages and the click of camera shutters, a stark contrast to the solemnity of the funeral home behind them. But Lin paid them no mind, his gaze never straying from the direction of the memorial hall. He kept his hands in his pockets, his posture slightly hunched, and walked forward steadily. It was as if the noisy crowd around him didn't exist at all. His expression remained blank, no hint of joy or annoyance, as if he was merely going through a routine errand. Behind him, several funeral home staff quickly rushed over to block the fans. Their voices were firm but gentle as they tried to restore order. Quiet, please be quiet. Do not gather here. This is a memorial service. Please be solemn, respect the deceased. No noise, please. The fans, though reluctant, gradually quieted down under the staff's persuasion. They continued to watch Lin from a distance, their eyes still shining with admiration. Some whispered to each other, while others kept their phones raised, silently taking photos of his back as he walked away. Once Lin stepped into the funeral home corridor, the noise from outside faded significantly. It was replaced by the faint echo of his slow, steady footsteps on the marble floor. He still stared straight ahead, his gaze unwavering, the same intense, unblinking stare that had locked onto Alex just moments before. He walked with a lazy, listless gait, his shoulders slightly hunched. His hands were tucked deep into his hoodie pockets, and his face was completely expressionless, as if he was sleepwalking through the moment. Alex couldn't help but stare back, his curiosity piqued, and a faint sense of unease stirring in his chest. As the fans had said, Lin was indeed an extremely handsome young man. He was so handsome that Alex, who usually avoided overly delicate descriptions, struggled to find a better word than ethereal to describe him. It was a soft, almost fragile handsomeness, not the rugged kind one might expect from a famous novelist. Lin was not particularly tall, probably around 175 centimeters, and extremely thin, so thin that his hoodie hung loosely on his frame, making him look even more frail. His slight hunch made it hard for Alex to gauge his height accurately, but there was something about his posture that exuded a quiet, melancholic aura. His skin was as pale as snow, lacking any healthy flush. It was the kind of paleness one gets from spending years indoors, away from sunlight, a sickly, listless pallor that made him look like he could faint at any moment. His hair was long, almost covering his eyes, jet black and shiny, with a slight curl and a messy, unkempt look. It was as if he hadn't bothered to comb it in days. He walked very slowly, each step deliberate but lacking energy, as if moving took great effort. His eyes remained half open, as if he was perpetually sleepy. His entire person exuded a sense of exhaustion and laziness, not a trace of vitality or enthusiasm. He looked like a dying sea otter, slowly sinking into the dark depths of the ocean. And that unblinking, listless gaze of his was like an inescapable fishing net. It threatened to drag Alex, the one he'd locked eyes with, down into that same abyss with him. Alex felt a chill run down his spine, an inexplicable sense of dread that he couldn't quite explain. "Alex?" Emma's soft voice pulled him back to reality, sharp enough to break his trance but gentle enough not to startle him. Alex turned around to see her standing a few steps away, her brows slightly furrowed, her eyes fixed on him with a hint of confusion. "Stop daydreaming. We need to leave now." Alex nodded quickly, tearing his gaze away from Lynn, feeling a faint sense of relief as he turned to follow the vice presidents. Before rounding the corner, he couldn't help but glance back one last time, and there Lynn was, still walking slowly, hands in his pockets, slightly hunched. His gaze was fixed straight ahead, not deviating even a little. His expression was still blank, his eyes still half open and listless, as if he'd never looked at Alex at all. Alex let out a silent breath, a faint flush of embarrassment creeping up his cheeks. He'd been overthinking it. Lynn hadn't been staring at him at all. That vacant, unblinking gaze was either from exhaustion, nearsightedness, or just his natural state. It had all been his own wishful thinking, a product of his overactive imagination after days of stress and investigation. Evening fell over East Sea City, painting the sky in shades of deep orange and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. "Whoosh!" Ryan, Alex's closest friend, grunted as he mustered all his strength to hurl an empty beer can into the river. Plop! The aluminum can landed softly on the water's surface, rippling slightly before floating away with the current, bobbing up and down like a lost toy. "Well, what do you think, Alex? Give me your review." Ryan grinned proudly, wiping the sweat from his forehead. It was as if he'd just accomplished some great feat instead of throwing a trash can into the river. "Review what?" Alex shivered from the cold, pulling his coat tighter around himself, his teeth chattering slightly. "Review your lack of manners. Review this dinner, of course." Ryan rolled his eyes at his romance-challenged friend, fanning a small barbecue grill vigorously with a folding fan. The flames flickered and crackled as they licked at the skewers of meat. "I was worried you'd be in a bad mood, so I specially set up this little barbecue by the river to cheer you up. Isn't this thoughtful?" "It's winter, you idiot. What were you doing in summer?" Alex couldn't help but feel speechless, stretching out his hands to hover over the tiny, struggling flame of the grill. He was competing with the half-cooked lamb skewers for warmth. "When you said you'd treat me to barbecue, I even deliberately didn't wear a thick coat, afraid it would get smelly. Now I'm freezing to death." "Hey, a barbecue's a barbecue no matter the season." Ryan popped open another can of beer, handing it to Alex with a playful grin. "Drink up. It'll warm you up." Alex took the can, only to set it down immediately, his face twisting in disgust. "It's iced? What good will it do me to drink this? Are you trying to kill me?" "Drink something cold to forget your troubles." Ryan laughed loudly, fanning the grill a few more times before grabbing a handful of lamb skewers and handing them to Alex. "Feeling better these days? You've been looking down ever since Professor Hughes passed away. Much better." Alex took a bite of the skewer, the warm, savory meat temporarily chasing away the chill. "Professor is gone, and being sad won't bring him back. The best way to honor him is to check on his daughter more often, make sure she's okay. That's the spirit?" Ryan grabbed a handful of fish balls and placed them on the grill, turning them carefully with a pair of tongs. "I just hope they catch those two murderers soon. They're monsters for killing such a great scientist. I was looking forward to taking a hibernation pod to the future someday. but now I'm not sure if I'll ever get the chance. That won't happen. Alex shook his head firmly, wiping the sauce from his chin. Professor is gone, but the fire of hibernation technology has already been lit. Even without him, there will be others to take up the torch and continue his research. It's inevitable. No one can stop it now. He paused, raising an eyebrow at Ryan. Besides, why would you want to go to the future anyway? A hibernation pod isn't a time machine. Once you go, you can never come back. There's no turning back, no do-overs. Yeah, you're right. I was just talking nonsense. Ryan laughed, flipping the fish balls again before popping open another beer and clinking it against Alex's unopened can. Cheers, Professor Hughes. Clink, the sound of metal hitting metal echoed softly over the river. Ryan chugged his beer in one go, then crushed the can in his hand and hurled it toward the opposite bank of the river. Plop, this time, it flew much farther, sinking into the water with a small splash. How about we toast to your manners first? Alex said dryly, staring at the floating can in the distance. Ryan laughed and shrugged, grabbing another skewer and shoving it into his mouth. The riverbank barbecue ended early. Even Ryan couldn't stand the bitter cold anymore, surrendering and declaring the evening over. Alex walked back to his apartment, feeling a dull ache in his head and a runny nose. Shit, he muttered under his breath, pinching his nose. Please don't let me catch a cold. He hurried to the bathroom, turned on the hot water, and stepped into the shower, letting the warm water cascade over his body, trying to chase away the chill. After drying off, he took 2 packs of cold medicine, brewed them with hot water, and drank the bitter liquid in one go. He turned off the lights, climbed into bed, and closed his eyes. He hoped that a good night's sleep would chase away the incipient cold. Huh? Alex frowned in confusion, his eyes fluttering open. Where was the sweltering summer breeze he'd grown accustomed to over the past 20-odd years? Where were the cicadas chirping that had kept him awake on countless nights? Where were the noisy children playing in the square outside his window? Why was it so quiet today? He opened his eyes fully, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. Brick walls, low houses, narrow alleys, red lanterns, stone tiles, green moss. The surroundings were filled with chaotic, crisscrossing self-built small buildings, cramped and dilapidated, silent and desolate. It looked like a poor backward village, nothing like the modern bustling East Sea city he knew. What's going on here? Alex looked left and right, staring at the dim incandescent light bulbs flickering in the windows of the houses around him. He took an involuntary step back. Everything had changed. Gone was the square. Gone were the playing children. Gone were the bustling shops and roads. Gone were the familiar electronic billboards and bright streetlights. Where am I? Alex spun around suddenly, only to find the same uneven stone path behind him, flanked by small, shabby, self-built houses of varying heights. The alleys were so narrow that it seemed impossible for a car to pass through, and his view was blocked by the haphazardly arranged buildings. He had no idea where he was or how to get out. Could it be? A cold chill ran down Alex's spine, a terrifying thought crossing his mind. Could he have traveled to another timeline? Another world? What year was it now? What day was it? Alex spun around again, his eyes scanning the area frantically for any clue. Then he spotted it, a small convenience store with a large yellow light bulb hanging above the door, tucked away at the corner of the alley. It looked exactly like the convenience stores from the 1980s and 1990s. He'd seen in TV dramas, with a worn wooden counter and a dusty window. He hurried toward the store, his heart pounding in his chest, hoping to find someone who could tell him where he was. Inside, an old man wearing a white undershirt was sitting on a rickety wooden chair. He was cracking sunflower seeds with a smile, fanning himself with a palm leaf fan, and watching a large, bulky CRT TV guy. Dear viewers, the evening news is now broadcasting the time. The female host on the low-resolution TV screen spoke in a clear, steady voice. She smiled directly at the camera and at Alex, who was standing in the doorway. It is now August 28, 2006-24, 10:00 p.m. Alex froze in place, his blood running cold. 2624? That was 600 years in the future, the same length of time that the Genius Club had existed. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he stumbled backward, his mind racing. Had his ability to rewrite the future sent him 600 years ahead? Or was this another bizarre dream? Either way, one thing was clear. He was no longer in the world he knew.